anyone that's been in sales knows that not only is the job demanding in terms of the work that you have to do, but it's also demanding in terms of its impact on your emotional life and your relationships. And I'm so excited for today's guest because we're going to get to dive into the impact of sales culture on both personal and professional relationships. I'm Dr. Nadia Brown, founder of the Doyen Agency and host of the Sales Culture Unfiltered podcast. And I'm really excited about our guest today. Glenn Sandifer is a seasoned executive and leader with over 2 decades of experience in demand generation, inside sales, client success, sales enablement, operations, and sales and marketing engagements. He has the background. He has successfully scaled numerous programs, and these programs have resulted in a substantial net revenue gain of $500 million across various verticals, including home services, commercial security, real estate, and project management. Driven by this success, Glenn delved deeper into the intricate connections between professional achievements and the quality of personal relationships. Glenn firmly believes that while busy individuals can find joy in their work, they often neglect to cultivate or maintain healthy personal connections outside of office hours. His insights on this topic are evident in his book, How to Get Great Dating Outcomes in a Modern World, where he explores the impact of the demanding business world on romantic relationships. Currently, Glenn serves as an executive leader in the integrated guarding vertical. He resides in Nashville, Tennessee, with his beautiful wife, Takina, and their 2 young children. So if you're in sales and you have any type of personal relationships, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Tune in. Welcome to Sales Culture Unfiltered, the podcast where we get real about what actually makes or breaks high-performing sales teams. I'm your host, Dr. Nadia Y. Brown, a sales culture and communication architect, and I work with sales leaders to engineer high-impact teams that hit their numbers without burning out or breaking down. On this show, we dive into unfiltered conversations with sales leaders, industry experts, and high-performing teams about what it really takes to drive revenue, retain talent, and build a winning sales culture. If you're tired of surface-level advice and want the strategies, challenges, and hard-won wins that actually matter, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Sales Culture Unfiltered, and I'm so excited for our guest today, Glenn Sandifer. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, how are you, Dr. Brown?
I'm good. So excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you and I appreciate your audience for the time.
Oh boy, I'm excited for this conversation. So before we hit record, we were having some back and forth, and I want to, dive in. But before we dive into all the juicy, let's just talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments that you've had. So one of the things that we covered and I discovered about you was that in your experience, you've scaled programs that have generated $500 million in net revenue
Yeah.
across multiple industries, which is
Yeah.
great, right? And one of the things that I really like about your philosophy is that you feel that sales is a service profession, not a quota machine.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's just dive right on in. What is something that most sales leaders, when say their job is to hit numbers, what would you say and push back on that?
Their job isn't to hit numbers,
If
it's
a
to
sales,
influence. Yeah.
Go
If a
ahead.
salesperson, it's to influence the individual for the performance of hitting a quota. So
Mm,
that means investment in an individual, wherever they are from a vertical standpoint, a socioeconomic standpoint, and understanding what their motivating factors are. If you can't articulate that for your entire sales organization, you won't be successful. Now, some sales leaders will say, and in my prior to this current role that I'm in and in the previous 20 years, they will all say, well, I know my people. No, you don't, because your people aren't hitting quota. If your
mhm.
people are hitting the quota, you should know your people because you should know every motivation. And what you'll do as a leader is it puts you into the servant mindset when you're more concerned about your people and their well-being than about hitting your quota because you want to buy another boat or you want to buy a lake house. That is not the aim of sales. The aim of sales is to provide a service to someone in need. And the result and outcome is quota attainment, which is money. So that's one thing that I'll push back. Like you said in the intro, I mean, it's been $500 million that I've been directly responsible for. So that is a tall feat, and it actually took my team to go back and do the numbers and say, all right, hold on, let's look at your quotas and let's look at what you've driven and let's look at your teams. You're at
Yeah.
$500 million. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me start saying that to people. So, but in that, I've been across various industries. I've done it across QSR, consumer electronics. I've done it across automotive, technology, telecom, and more recently, security and now integrated security.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So when you see that culture shift, right? Like, because I know that that's a mindset shift that a lot of the sales leaders they have to get their minds right, right? Like it's shifting from
Yes.
quota attainment to wait, my job is to really support my team. What does it actually
Mm-hmm.
look like inside a sales team when that culture shift takes place and they move from quota chasing to service first? What are some of the actual changes they can expect to see?
I'll talk about input, then the outcome. So the input first will be your one-to-ones look different. One-to-ones now are typically CRM pipeline reviews. And they have been for the previous decade in my career. It's been, hey, okay, where are you with your quota? Give me your top five. What are the blockers and stoppers? And then how do we move it forward? Versus, who have you spoken to in this buying committee? Have you felt their pain? Can you articulate what their pain point is? They don't have a pain point. Then why are you trying to sell them today? They
Mhm.
need to move to a nurture bucket. And so then when you change the one-to-one cadence and then you begin to speak about how are things at home? How's the family? HR doesn't like to hear this. I don't care. But it's like, how's the family? Oh, you're dealing with that issue. Do you need to take some time? No, I don't want to take time. Well, you're not going to be punished professionally because you need to take time to deal with your family. You have a sick family member. You have a parent that's aging that's moving in. There's someone in your family that has a diagnosis. Those things impact the way that you allocate your time and your resources to the team. And then for project, because you may have them on a special project and you need to bring in support. Don't take them off, but bring in support to help them along the way
Absolutely.
as they kind of deal with it. And then I think people and employees in particular will feel a better value. That then leads to the outcome of a cultural shift where a sales organization can now feel like we are more focused on, instead of driving quota attainment, we're pulling revenue through our prospect base and our existing client base in some instances to a better result. So it leads to more consultative sales experience for the sales team. I also believe that that's the majority of the talent in the market right now. They're
Mhm.
more interested in they're more prepped and amenable, there it is, to just having a consultative sales approach. Doing outbound and dialing phones like I've done with call centers, that's going
Mhm.
away. So now you have to be able to drive your pipeline through long-term relationship building and consultation. So SDRs and BDRs are now asked to be account executives and account managers all in one. Close the deal and then grow the business and grow the
Right.
relationship. And you can't do that if you're still as a leader driving them just to hit a quota. Because what they'll do is they'll start chasing deals and chasing quota, and they'll start putting things in pipeline that are not ready.
Right.
And I found that more recently in my previous role, where that was a big challenge within the sales organization.
I love that. So one of the questions that I have, because as you mentioned, rolling up the BDR and SDR roles into account executives or account management,
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes those are two different or multiple skills, right? And
Yeah.
so, what are some of the challenges that sales leaders are now facing when you're trying to wrap all of that up into one person?
I think the biggest challenge is that people are missing some of the developmental steps.
Mhm.
So from If you look at SDR, BDR, sometimes they're interchangeable, but we'll just say for the audience that SDR is inbound and some outbound to support the account executive, right?
Mhm.
And then the BDR is outbound to support the account executive. So we'll use that as the definition. What we're now finding is that sales jobs that are posted, they are saying we need you to be an inbound lead handler, outbound prospect, manage this account base and expand the existing account base 10%. And oh, by the way, you have to hit a new quota of $3.5 million. Those are three different jobs. And so what leaders, I believe, are experiencing is the frustration with asking their existing talent base to do three roles.
Yeah.
And I know there's been a consolidation effort in corporate in the recent years to kind of flatten most organizations and remove layers, and then have specialists come in and be more generalists. I think you can do it, but you have to frame it in a way that goes back to what I talked about: is what is the motivation of the individual? If the individuals are motivated and they only want to do inbound, and you now start asking them to do outbound, they're going to be gone in 6 months.
Yeah, they will.
If you're asking someone who was a hunter and only wants to gets credit for a new logo, and now you're asking them, hey, by the way, here's 15 accounts. I need you to start traveling and going to those locations, and I need you to start building out plans on how you're going to expand it. They're going to be gone in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably the biggest challenge is going to be and really it goes down to one word: bandwidth. The bandwidth of the existing talent pool creates a frustration with managers that they're trying to just really drive the number. And if they have to drive and hit a number, and you're asking your people to do multiple jobs and they're not capable of doing it, it's on you as a sales manager to develop that skill.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that it sounds like sales, which we know was already extremely demanding, is now becoming
Mm-hmm.
even more demanding because you're being asked or even required to now build different skill sets that you may or may not have had in the past. So, as a sales leader, because I definitely want us to shift and talk about your book and the relationship aspect. So, in corporate, been there, you're often
Mm-hmm.
asked to leave your personal life at home. How does that really show up for sales leaders and their teams when you have a team member that's dealing with things at home and now it's impacting their performance?
Again, it goes back to understanding that. I mean, so here's one of the fortunate things about our industry. We've had people that have dealt with health challenges and loss of loved ones, and the teams really rally around each other. I mean, most industries are pretty close knit, especially most of the people have been in the industry 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So, there's a grace that's allotted to individuals when they go through some things at home.
Mm-hmm.
But for a sales leader who's not experienced that, and you may be new into an industry or vertical, you have to be patient and give grace to your sales team members when they're dealing with things at home, because you're not going to get the best version of them until they have that solved and settled. We see some things happen where, let's say a person is going through separation and their performance is waning because they don't have access to their family. They don't have access to their money like they used to. So they're trying to figure things out. Giving them some grace may be, hey, I don't need you to travel to that client this week. I'll handle it. I need you to get your pipeline cleaned up, and I need you to spend some time and figure out home. If someone's dealing with a loved one that may be fighting an illness. Fortunately, I went through that the previous 3 years, but I had a great mentor and a great boss that both supported the time that I had to have away from that. It didn't impact my performance, but to have that understanding and that acceptance from leadership in particular really helped you kind of navigate that new normal. And it shows up in performance, because what it really does is a word that we don't really have in corporate America, but it exists. It's loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I remember how you helped me through a challenging time and how you supported me, okay, yeah, I may be getting a phone call from a recruiter or another contractor, but I don't think I'm going to take that because I'm loyal to you guys because you guys took care of me.
Right.
And it creates a followership that as a sales leader, you have to have now. You have to be able to pick up the phone, call 5 to 6 people who understand you, understand your voice, and have them come along with you on a journey where you are. And you can only do that if you've extended grace to people as they've dealt with things, because we're human. We deal with things all the time.
We absolutely do. And yep, you're talking about working with humans. One of the things I'm curious about is in your years of experience, have you paid a personal cost, or was there a personal cost that you paid first before you started connecting these dots as it relates to relationships and then
Yeah,
ultimately writing your book?
absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, the first, and I'm transparent about this in my book, is I went through a very hard divorce in my early 30s. And from that, I was trying to figure out how to be a husband, be a Christian and lead, be an employee and be the top performer for 4 years in a row, and then also bring along side hustles to bring in additional cash because, oh, by the way, I wanted to pay off my student loans.
Right.
And what ended up breaking and as a result was there was a breakdown in our relationship.
Mhm.
And it led to that separation and eventual divorce. And then what I found is that as I began to rebuild my life through therapy, because everybody needs to go to therapy, we're all
Here,
crazy,
here. I second that.
um, is I started to realize that I was us as men, we have boxes, we pull boxes out, the nothing box, the work box. We start to compartmentalize and we fail to look at the entire picture sometimes,
Hmm.
or we look at the entire picture and never want to deal with one of the boxes or the heaviest box. And I think I had to start pulling off those boxes and start to really unpack, why was I in this situation? Why did I choose this person? Why did I respond that way? And I had to take accountability for all of my part in the breakdown of the relationship. And then as I began to rebuild and I started to look at uh, finding another relationship, that's how I started writing the book, because I wrote a different version of the book based on dating. And then when I met my now wife, I had to rework the entire thing because I said modern dating is hard, it's awful. And if you're not identifying who you are, what you want, what you qualify for, and understand what that person who you qualify for wants from you, you'll never be successful. So I
Hmm.
started putting it into practice in our relationship, and it changed the way that I was able to show up for her. And so then we went through our courtship, we got engaged, and then um, we were married, expecting our first child. I went down for a surgery. I completed the book. So I took the book. At that time, I reworked it because I was off for about 16 weeks, um, pre-child recovery, and I finished the book in its initial draft form, and I started sending it out to other authors. My wife took a look at it. They were like, "No, you need to create it. You need to tell a better story around your archetypes, because part of the problem in dating, and this gets back to business, I promise people, is when we're dating, we're not picking the right person. So
Hmm.
we're picking what we wanted at 16.
Hmm.
You can't pick what you want at 16 because what you wanted at 16 is not what you need at 65. And if you don't have the characteristics or the traits yourself, you won't qualify for that person that you want.
Yeah.
So I found and identified I'm a modern man. My wife is a modern woman. We have a modern relationship. And based on the data and based on the hypothesis, it is a 50-50 proposition, not what the people are saying on TikTok, where she pays and I pays. It's 50-50 is everything is up for debate and negotiation.
I love it.
So I'm better at certain things. So I do those things and I don't do them begrudgingly or with resentment. She's better at other things. She does those with the joy and with happiness that leads to a healthier relationship. Where we find most people in corporate America, as they begin to go up the ladder and start having success, particularly sales leaders, they start making 300, 400, 5,000 a year. Um, they are starting to see a breakdown in their existing relationship because it's not what they need for the next level.
Mm.
And if it is what you need for the next level and you're not articulating it to your significant other, there's going to be a breakdown. Because as as you go and you start making $500,000 a year, that's a different expectation from your client. That's a different expectation for your company. And that's going to change how you show up in your relationship and show up in your home. So don't be a modern man with a female because she's going to want more time because she's emotional. And that's where we're finding that people are. Or don't be a traditional man and you got this modern woman who want to negotiate everything and you're just saying, my job is to go provide, protect, profess, and priest in our home. Why are you asking me to do this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a breakdown, there's a separation, then there's a breakdown, and people are like, what happened? And based on my book and our research, I'm like, this is what happened. You picked the wrong person early and you never pivoted that person. You never changed your expectation. You never asked them in love to make an adjustment. And so there was a complete breakdown.
How do people manage that? Because my husband and I will celebrate 18 years of being married this year. And
Wait, is the thing going to do it? Is it going to
I
start
don't see
clapping
it
to the
working, I guess.
fireworks? Okay, it's not working.
Pretend we have fireworks, yes.
Yes,
And
18 years. Praise the Lord.
yes. And so I can attest that, we have definitely been through those seasons, whether it was career, personal, all the things have happened over the years. And so you pick a person at a certain time in your life, and then you wake up 10, 15, 20 plus years later, like you said, things have changed. What are things that people can do along the way to make sure that when I reach the pinnacle of my career and I make $500,000, that I still have my partner with me?
Well, that's not the goal. Let me tell you what the goal should be. I say that the best outcome for any society, one man, one woman in a relationship, long-term commitment, marriage, children, legacy as a result. That provides people, you have two people who are now attached to something bigger than themselves, the relationship and legacy. If you have a bunch of single people who are dealing with self all of their life, their society is not designed to handle that. Society is designed for people to handle themselves and handle their family units and handle their local communities. And then governments and entities are created to help on a larger scale. And then when you're focused on what I just said, like we have the marriage, that's one thing. We have our children, we have to develop them. And then we have our legacy. So that is career. And that is what are we going to leave behind that's going to outlast us. So those three things are bigger than me. So I can't handle them. So as a person of faith who has a relationship with Jesus Christ, for the audience, that's me. Everyone knows it. That's what I lean on from a faith standpoint to make sure that I'm showing up as the best version of myself, not just as a man, but as a Christian in the way that God wants me to show up through Jesus Christ. I have to do that consistently in order to be the best husband, to be the best father, to show up for long-term legacy as a result. That's how we do it in our household. And so far, God hasn't let us down. So we're just going to continue to trust him and continue to move in the direction. He keeps putting individuals in our path, mentors, bosses that are supportive of that narrative that I just communicated.
Mm-hmm.
And that lets me know that I'm in the right place at the right time. So it's easier now to deal with as a person and as a spouse that I picked for what I want at 65. Now, I am not good at planning the kids' activities. I'm just not. I can get you 2 for the quarter, maybe. But my wife, so guess what I never do? We ain't doing that. I can't say that because she planned it. She did the research. I just need to make sure I'm available and support and show up with a smile.
Right.
I am better at the laundry. I don't like everybody washing my clothes. It's just like, all right, I know what to do with the whites, towels, sheets, darks, underwear.
He has his own system.
Delicates. It's a whole system. And if the audience cares, I'm probably going to do a blog on this is how you do laundry at home in the modern world. But it's when she steps into it, she steps in and it's incomplete. Now, I appreciate what she does in her attempt at it, but I don't require that of her. In the next 40 years, she's going to get better at that. In the next 40 years, I'm going to be better at planning the activities for the family. So that's when grace comes back in and say, all right, I'm better at it right now. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to let her come along and get better. I'm going to let him come along and get better at it and planning more activities. And every now and then I surprise her with a nice activity. I just did for as of this recording, the FIFA World Cup. We're going to do something for FIFA with the kids to take them.
Good
And
job.
she was like, oh my gosh, that's nice. I was like, yeah. And, I got a pat on the head. So I felt good that week. So,
So proud. Gold star.
old star.
In your book, do you talk about, because you mentioned the archetypes, do you talk more about how people can really make that decision and considering like where I am now and taking into account where I want to be in the future? Because like you said, you're someone at certain, we all get married at one age and then we wake up many, many years later and we're at a different age and a different space.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare people to make those decisions, especially when we don't know what's going to
Well,
come?
so when I wrote the books, the original book was 325 pages, and every publisher was like, "No one's going to read this." And I was like, "I disagree." So I had to get ego out of the way and stop thinking I was smart. And I was like, "All right." So I broke it down into three books. So part one talks about how we got here in dating, the archetypes of men, archetypes of women, and part two goes into the work. So part two could be its own 2 hour podcast, which it probably will be this summer. I'll finally do it to my team, where we talk about doing the work. But I what I want people to understand is that along the way, so once you choose the person, let's just say you're the right archetype, you're a modern man, you have a modern woman, you're identifying needs, you're becoming the best versions of yourselves. You understand what they want, and you guys are moving in tandem, and it's a selfless act. There's still work that has to be done from your past because your past creeps up. That's why I'm a fan of therapy. So the
Yeah.
first thing I tell people, if you're struggling in relationship outcome, if you can't seem to stick with one person or one person can't stick with you, stop, come off social media for just 6 months, read 2 books. And for the business audience, they'll appreciate this because it helps you as a leader. The 5 love languages, because
Hmm.
it'll teach you how to speak to the love language of your significant other, but it also has implications on how you speak to your team because
Yeah.
each of them respond in a different way and the principles still matter. And I believe Gary Chapman has a 5 love languages for corporate. It was a book that I think it came out in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
You read that book, and then it starts to allow you to do the work and then start speaking to the love language of that person. So 5 love languages by Gary Chapman. Then his needs, her needs, how to have an affair-proof marriage by William F. Harding. That book really changed the way after I went through my separation and divorce about how I approach from a communication standpoint to ensure that this never happened again through my own actions. So I focus 100% on her needs.
Hmm.
If she's responding and she's responsible for my needs, the things that you sign up for in a marriage. We're talking marriages, guys. So in that marriage, then it all works out. We're building our love banks, and our love banks are what we can pull on when we need grace. When I have to travel overseas for a week or 2 weeks, she can pull from the love bank because I've made all these deposits over the previous 2 months. When I want to go do WrestleMania 43, I don't think she knows that yet, the next year. And I want to be
Oh,
there for the full week. So when I want to do that, I know I can't ask that today. I got to do some inputs, and I'll probably start those specific WrestleMania inputs in October. Oh no, we can go to Boo at the Zoo. Oh no, I'll take the kids trick or treat. You know what? I was thinking of taking the kids and my mama up the street so you can have the house to yourself this weekend. It's his needs, her needs. And then where I am, and the people who love me most know this about my personality. About 3 o'clock, I'm done. I don't want to talk. Leave me alone. I pause, and then I need to rebuild and replenish my social battery for wife and kids.
yeah.
So She knows sometimes I'm walking around moody, and she's like, "What is wrong? Are you mad at us? Are you mad?" And now she realized he was like, he just need a moment. Let me leave him
Mm-hmm.
alone. And
Mm-hmm.
then I come back and I say, "Hey, thanks for giving me the last hour. I kind of needed that to clear my headspace because I've been dealing with so much today. But yes, I'm ready to engage." And then we engage in all the things in her head that she spills out as spaghetti, and it's just like, okay, all right, let me deal with that piece and that piece and that piece. So those two books. So for the audience, Five Love Languages, His Needs, Her Needs, How to Have an Affair Proof Marriage. That's where I would tell any leader to start as today. And then as you continue to pivot, open up the conversation and dialogue with your significant other, reread it together,
Yes,
and then have check-ins. So question, do you and your husband have regular check-ins?
all the
What's your
time.
cadence?
Yes. We
We
have
do.
we do different check-ins. I know there was one I don't even remember when we started this, but I would just come up and I would say, "Are we good? Like, are there areas that we need to address, things that I'm doing without even knowing it that'll drive you crazy and vice
Yeah,
versa?"
because y'all do stuff. Y'all do stuff to us and drive us crazy, and we just don't say anything. We'll just
Oh
be like,
yeah, like y'all do nothing at all.
because if you have one problem, it's good. We gonna talk about that one thing for an hour and 15 minutes, and it's just like, okay, let's talk about it.
We got to get it out. I need you to understand the breadth and the depth of the issue at hand so we can address all of it. First go.
All of it.
No, but I
We're
think
gonna we're gonna address all of it right now in this place. And even though it's one thing that you communicated, it's about 15. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, see, audience. She's not refuting it. It's the same. It's like her and my wife are talking. It's like they're best friends because my wife does the same thing.
I do my best. I try to keep it to one, but it is
It's
what it
never
is.
one. See, my wife did it this morning. It was so great because I saw the spaghetti unraveling over her head as she was communicating what she wanted to talk about, and I was just like, okay, I see it. I see it falling. Oh, that's the issue, but there are all these other things that are connected to it, so it makes sense. So let's address the issue by addressing those other things. I recommend, and I was told this by a great counselor. Um, the check-in cadence that's best for marriages, especially young marriages. You're 18. Once you get 15, then we celebrate that. We're gonna move that forward, and then we're gonna have y'all on the podcast. We're gonna do all that. We're gonna celebrate y'all. But until you get to 15, you don't know enough. I don't care if you've been married before. You don't get extra credit for that. But a check-in cadence that's really good and that we were taught is one weekly check-in.
Hmm.
How am I doing? So, what's going well? What's not going well? What can I do better? What's one thing I can do better this week? So, those three questions. Then you have a logistics meeting later because what we tend to do in relationships, marriages in particular, especially if you have young kids,
Yes.
every discussion is about logistics. Well, we do a calendar review and then we'll check in the morning only if there's a logistical change. So, all those people on TikTok that have all these shots with the calendars, we don't even need that because everything is on our family calendar. And when you create something on the calendar, you add it to the family calendar so everyone can see it. It's really stressing my mom out now who lives with us. She's like, okay, what's all this on my calendar? Like, mom, that's just the logistics of the household. And then she says, y'all doing too much. No, we're not. We're doing just the right amount. This is just for visibility on it. So separating those two keeps the emotional check-in
Yeah.
from becoming a logistics meeting because it's really easy in the emotional check-in to be like, I was really upset. I was really stressed out because things were going on at work and I really didn't feel like, my travel. That's a logistics discussion. Tell me about us and tell me about me and what I need to do. And it's a safe space. We pray before, we pray
Hmm.
ourselves out. So the Holy Spirit is with us, the
Hmm.
Holy Ghost, depending on which your denomination. And then we leave it there. And then we make the commitment that week to put in the effort in that particular area. And then logistics meetings are logistics meetings. The other thing that we're going to begin implementing is I call it, I was like I say that sometimes that's the Senate and I'm Congress. So we need to have the State of the Union. And the president is God, the vice president is Jesus, and the Holy Ghost is the Speaker of the House. So that's the State of the Union. So in
Okay.
the State of the Union, those are the three that rule over us. But really, we have individual needs for our constituency. For the Senate, I do. No, she's the Senate. I'm gonna give her Senate. They get 6 years, so she's gonna want that. I only need two. I got to do more work, whatever. So, and it's more of me. It's more things I'm juggling. That's actually a really good analogy. And at the State of the Union, we're gonna talk about everything that we did annually. So we're gonna do an annual review. All right, what went well this year? What was the biggest challenge? What was the biggest opportunity? Where did we miss? Where did you miss? Where did I miss? What will we like to see different in this coming year?
Yeah.
What is our budget?
Yes.
I know. And everybody who's not married, what they hear is like, oh, that's a lot of work. Yeah, you can't just swipe left or right. I don't know. What do they swipe? I
I
did a
don't
show
know.
on. Okay, so they swiping. They're doing. I think
Both
left is
directions.
that I think that'll preach. They in swiping in both directions, but they'll swipe and they think, okay, this person looks good. They have the look that I want, and we're compatible. I think we can be happy together. That ain't how it works. I always say that marriage is a decision. It's a choice and an action.
Yeah.
Love is an action. And if you want the outcome of the great grandparents and grandparents, depending on everyone's age, you have to be willing to put in the work. The stuff that you've dealt with and the things that we've dealt with recently, that's going to happen in every marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to be able to avoid it because you pick the right person. And because it may be hard, doesn't mean you pick the wrong person. It means
Right.
you're not, you need to skill up in the area in order to be able to handle whatever your significant other wants. And as Christians, that's what God calls us to do. We're called to be the light and the salt. So if you're not light and you're not salt in your marriage, you're not going to be successful. That's a long way of
Very,
saying buy
very
my book.
true. I know,
That's a
right?
long
So
way.
many good
Buy
ones.
my book.
Buy it now. So
Shout out to Spelman. Shout out to Spelman College. I steal my wife's cup all the time.
nice, 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 nice. Before we wrap up, I definitely want to bring this back to because we talk about the demands of sales, the sales profession, and
Yeah.
now we've covered some of the demands of being in a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How does one balance those demands and really work towards being successful in both? And how do they communicate that with their team and leaders so that they have the right support both at work and at home?
So both are demanding. So marriage and family is demanding, and then a sales leader is saying that their profession is demanding.
Mm-hmm.
I will say what my mentors have said, and it's pretty much what we've talked about during this time together. Um, so take out what I said about my faith and belief. If you're going to have the relationship success, it can't be at the detriment of professional. You can't just spend time with each other. You have to show up to work.
Yes.
So the best thing that you can do, well, I will say, for someone because it's demanding, make sure you're having regular check-ins. Make sure you're having separating budget and logistics meetings. Have a date night once a week. A date night doesn't have to be night. We started doing days because I want to be on the rooftop like the people when we have a babysitter and we have coverage. So then we go, we brunch, we take pictures. I let her take pictures in front of the flower wall. And then we come back home and we've had real time, especially we older now. I'm sleepy past 9:30. I ain't trying to be on the roof 10:45 at night.
Go to bed.
So now I'm going to bed. So you're going to be committed there. When you've made that commitment and you get into a regular rhythm, now your check-ins from logistics can include work demands. Hey, I have a meeting where I need to be in Chicago for a week. Okay, let's back into that. What do you need to prepare for that? What are the things that we have going on with the kids? So then when the week comes, everyone from the outside sees it and it's seamless. Well, we spent 3 weeks investing in that. Oh, I got to be overseas. We got this meeting in Portugal. Not to brag, I'm just saying that's an example. And it's like, well, how long are you going to be there? Well, the meeting is 3 days and it's going to take a day for travel there, a day for travel back. So I'll be there 5 days. All right. So let's first look at the calendar and see what we have going on. Okay. Now, when I'm present there, when she's present there, we're not concerned about overly checking in because the other person could be overwhelmed. That's not the case, because we've made the commitment to one another to support each other professionally, and we want to see each other thrive. Yeah. So being intentional and plan, it's a bad word. It's planning. Yeah. The planning is just required at a very high level as a sales leader in order to have the professional success and maintain your relationship success as well as your family. Now, I don't get it right every day or every week or every month. I just don't. I mean, I'll throw a month. There's some months I just missed. I was like, I missed this whole month. And so it's fine. It's fine. She has grace and remember, she got a love bank. She got grace and mercy, and the Holy Spirit is guiding her. So she ain't left me yet. But it's starting to show an improvement and an increase. And what you'll start to see what you'll start to see and the world will see is the fruit of those decisions. Yeah. And then I always like to kind of end it with this. The next generation needs to see that because the previous generations did not. We got 2 generations in the workplace right now that did not see happy, healthy homes. So they're trying to figure it all out on their own, and it's hard. Yeah. So we have to be the representation for them to see that it's possible, that all things are possible, including a relationship that's successful and happy and healthy and supportive, as well as a profession, more specifically in the sales arena. And then companies celebrate that. I talk about the industry that I'm in, and a lot of people are like, well, why are you in that industry and you're not there? I was like, because the industry really supports families and supports individuals making time and investments in their family. So when I talk to people, we're not talking about quota or clients. We're talking about the relationships we have with the clients and the relationships we have with we're showing pictures of our kids and dance, showing people at the lake, showing people on a vacation. We're talking about it ahead of calls, after calls. So it's important that you also in the sales profession, you find the people and you find the village professionally that can support you in those endeavors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent conversation. We could probably talk for a long time, but we won't. Share with our listeners how people can learn more about the book, connect with you, any resources, please share.
Okay. So more about the book, TMG bookseries.com. That's where you can go and purchase the book. We have a digital download, an audio version where I do voices. And then we have the print copy that's available that gets shipped out through a number of different providers. So that's where you can learn more about the book and follow us on social there. I have a show the spring and the summer that I do TMG Live once a week where I just get on and rant. So what you just experienced is what I do once a week for an hour. And then there are a number of shows. We've been at that journey for the previous 4 years now. And God has really opened up some doors with that and really excited about that continued growth. If you'd like to connect with me from a business standpoint, I can be reached at glennsandifer.com, 2 N's in Glenn. Socials, we're at Glenn on X. We're on LinkedIn. And then I'm also on Instagram and on YouTube for Glenn Sandifer Consulting, GSC Consulting.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Again, it's been an excellent conversation. I hope it was helpful.
It was, at least to me, and I hope our listeners agree. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Sales Culture Unfiltered. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. That's a wrap on today's episode of Sales Culture Unfiltered. But the conversation doesn't end here. If something sparked your interest today, connect with me on LinkedIn or visit our website at thedoyenagency.com to explore how we're helping sales teams build cultures that last. And if you found this episode valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow sales leader. See you next time.